I remember that day clearly. Kofi was kneeling in the middle of the village, tears streaming down his face, begging his mother, Oma, to stay with him. But she just stood there, staring at him with a cold look. She didn't shed a single tear, didn't say a word. She just shook her head, turned, and walked away. For a moment, we thought maybe she'd come back, maybe she just needed time. But no, Oma was gone, and her only son was left broken. The story of Kofi and his mother Oma spread through the village, but no one could believe it at first. Oma had once been a sweet woman, always talking about how much she loved her son. She was a widow, and Kofi was her only child. He worked hard all his life to care for her. While other boys went to play or get married, Kofi stayed home, tending to the fields and bringing back food so that Oma would never go hungry. When he grew older, Kofi finally saved enough to build her little house, one that stood proudly among the clay homes in our village. Every brick he laid with his own hands, every bit of his strength poured into making a comfortable place for Oma. We all saw him sweating in the sun, day after day, working just to give his mother a good life. He even gave up his own dreams of traveling and seeing the world just so he could be there for her. But one day, a strange thing happened. Oma's sister from the city came to visit, and she promised Oma a better life if she would come live with her. Oma, the city has lights that never go out, her sister said, and food from the markets. You don't need to depend on Kofi anymore. Oma listened. Her eyes lit up at the thought of city life, and her heart seemed to grow distant from her son. Kofi pleaded with her, saying, "Mother, I have given up everything for you. I thought we were happy here. I built this life for us." But Oma didn't seem to care. She only saw the promise of the city and the chance to leave behind the simple life her son had built for her. That's why we saw Kofi kneeling that day, right in front of everyone. He was asking her to stay, begging her not to leave him. But Oma just looked down at him, unmoved, and then she walked away with her sister. Days turned to weeks, and Oma didn't return. People said she had found comfort in the city with her sister, eating from fancy plates, wearing clothes that glimmered in the light. But Kofi stayed in the village, alone in the home he'd built with his bare hands. He still farmed every day, though his spirit was gone. He no longer sang while he walked, he no longer smiled. The lively, dedicated son we all knew was now a shadow of himself. One night, Oma's sister sent a message back to the village. She wanted Kofi to send her some money, claiming Oma was unwell and needed medicine. I remember how Kofi took his last savings and gave it all without hesitation, even though his heart was still wounded from her betrayal. But after that, no one heard from Oma again. Years passed, and Oma was forgotten by everyone except Kofi. He was still caring for the little house, still tending to the crops, still alone. One evening, an elder came up to Kofi and said, "Your mother made her choice. It's time for you to live your life." But Kofi only nodded sadly and kept on walking. That day, we all saw how deep his love was for her. It was a sad thing to witness, a son who had given his all, only to be forgotten by the one he loved most. And though the village never spoke of it openly, we all felt the ache in our hearts whenever we saw him. He was a reminder of what it means to give everything and be left with nothing.